Good morning. I hope you're having a fantastic morning so far, and I want to make it a little bit better for you. Yesterday's video, I talked about 5 very specific soft skills that you can work on. What I'm going to do over the next 5 mornings, including to this morning, is to break them down a little bit and explain them a little bit more and explain how you can work on them a little bit more. So I'm going to work with motivation for this first morning. What is motivation and how do you create it? What is it? Is it genetic? What's going on with this? This is my belief, and this is working with hundreds of clients, working with a lot of people, reading a ton of research on this. Motivation is fostered. You can foster motivation, and you need to simply work with what you know, with what works. Okay. So many people talk about willpower. So many people talk about grit or simply getting things done, sucking it up, doing what they need to do. Listen, that'll work for a short period of time. But willpower is shown in a lot of research. There's a fantastic research study done with university students where they taxed somebody's brain just a little bit, and immediately after that, the university students had far less willpower. I'll share this with you, okay, if I remember it correctly. Basically what happened was they asked one group of students to memorize a number that was like 3 or 4 digits long. The second group of students, they asked them to memorize a number that was, I think, 7 or 8 digits long. Now, that's not a huge difference. I mean, yeah, it's more difficult to memorize a 7 or 8 digit number, but legitimately, it's not crazy difficult. You can think through it. If you've got a minute to memorize it, I'm pretty sure most people will remember it, right? Having said that, so it's just a little bit more difficult. Having said that, the next step of the research, unbeknownst to the students, was to walk down a hall to a new building, or to a new room, where they were going to get tested and see if they had the right answers for the questions, see if they could remember it. Now, again, unbeknownst to them, on the way through the hallway, there were a couple of stations. And there was a station with healthier food, and there was a station with more sugar-based food. Here's what they found. They found on a consistent basis, the people who used their brain just a little bit more, it was just a little more difficult, consistently chose the sugar instead of the healthy food. And the students that had not taxed their brains chose far more of the healthy food than the sugar. There was a huge difference between those. What is going on there? We only have a limited amount of willpower in us every day. Our brains are like the gas guzzlers of our body. They use a ton of energy, and because of that, when they use energy, we don't have as much energy to do the things we want to do. And that's willpower. So if you want to be motivated, one really quick tip for you this morning is make sure you're doing the things that are the most difficult, the things that you really want to work on. Make sure that you do those things in the morning when you have more willpower, when you have more motivation, when you don't have to work as hard to get something done. The ideal time for most people is between 9 and 11 in the morning. Between 9 and 11 in the morning for the average person, you get far more done of the things you want to get done, even if they're a little bit more difficult. Okay, so those difficult phone calls, those difficult conversations, those difficult projects, work at those in the morning. If you work at them in the morning, you will not need as much motivation. Here's the second thing with motivation. You can foster it by associating certain ideas with certain tasks. I'll give you an example. Let's say you, what can I use? Let's say that you're afraid of sales. Let's say you're afraid of marketing, and that you think that sales is all about manipulation. I disagree. I think terrible sales is about manipulation. Fantastic sales is about influence towards somebody else's goals because you've listened to them well, okay? Well, just that switch. I used to hate sales. I used to be disgusted by salespeople and think it was this awful profession. Now, as a coach, that's my job. My job is to sell ideas on a daily basis. My job is to sell people on working towards their goals. That's my job full time. I'm a salesperson. That's what I do. Now, before, when I didn't do sales, when I was afraid of asking for money from people, I questioned my own value, and I questioned whether what I was doing was right. The connotation, what I trained myself to think, based on society and movies and my parents and in lots of different situations, was that sales was evil and wrong at some level. The way it switched for me is I started focusing on what sales can do for somebody. I started switching my focus. My business partner, he challenged me one time and said, "Mark, quit being so freaking selfish. If you've got a great product that helps somebody in their life, why would you not tell them about it? It's like having water in the desert and somebody needs it and says, no thanks, and you go, okay, and you move off and they die. That's not very kind. It's not very generous. It's far better to listen to somebody's heart. And when I started listening or understanding this better, I went, wait a second, so sales is listening to somebody really well, what they truly need and desire. And then if I can help them with that, I will offer it to them. And I will offer it to them in a kind way, and I will not pressure them, and I will not force them to do anything. That's manipulation. I will encourage them to do it, and I may use those emotions that they fed back to me. I will give that back to them and say, listen, this is what I've heard from you. Is this true? And if that's true, it sounds like you need this. That's influence. As soon as you do that with yourself, as soon as you switch the idea, like me with sales, to this was evil, to, wait a second, sales is the most beautiful thing I can do for somebody else. It's the way that I can help them the most. Guess what? I'm very comfortable with sales now. I don't need as much motivation for sales. I'm highly motivated to sell my product, my programs, my coaching to other people because I know I can help them. I know I can make a massive difference in their lives. And I'll tell you another thing. I work with integrity in that. I make sure that I protect this visualization that I have of sales. If I meet somebody who's not good for me, who it's not going to be a good fit, I tell them, listen, this isn't a good fit, and I point them in the direction of somebody else. I do that very quickly. I say no to lots and lots of clients who look for coaching. So, how does this apply to you? How is it going to work for you? What you need to do is start to figure out how to motivate yourself. And this is a quick way that you can practice like quickly on a daily basis. It'll take a while to motivate yourself. Do it in the morning. Ask yourself, this is the action step, ask yourself what can you do in the morning, what is difficult. There's a book by Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog. Do the most difficult thing in the morning where you need the focus, because then you won't have the willpower later on, okay? That's the first part. The second part is start to visualize what it's like to do something in a way that brings you joy. If you start visualizing doing business, if you visualize having conversations with people and they always end up well in your mind has a power to change what you believe about something. Now, this takes a longer time. This is not for the people who are going to give up after a week. Okay? So don't take the second action step unless you go, no, I'm going to work at this on a consistent basis because I really want it. But if that's the case, start to write out a visualization. Start to work out affirmations where you consistently visualize you doing the thing that you're not motivated to do and feeling great. And I'll give you a really simple way to do this. Think about a bride. Think about a bride who wants to fit into a wedding dress that's 3 sizes smaller than she is right now. And think about how difficult it is to be motivated to exercise if she simply thinks about how difficult it is to exercise. But what if every morning she visualizes her wedding and standing up in front of a whole bunch of people, and people with their eyes wide and their mouths open going, she looks incredible in that dress. If that's what she visualizes for 6 months, she's far more likely to lose weight. Visualize what you want, visualize your goals, and you're more likely to take the action. Anchor yourself with the desire to do something rather than the fear of not doing it. Enjoy the process.